The Democratic National Committee protested President Trump's plans to accept a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar by flying a banner over Mar-a-Lago reading Qatar-a-Lago. It's the kind of hilarious stunt that makes you realize why the Democrats will never win again.
Which would certainly be the best thing for humankind and for the future of civilization itself, as any child of 6 can tell you. Now I've got one that it just dazzles this. The Democrat Party, they're not aware that not lying is an option. Everything must be an incredible lie. And to that end, the head of CBS News is stepping down, and I love this. The New York Times, a woman named Wendy McMahon, the president of CBS News, is stepping down, and the headline at the New York Times is, head of CBS News to depart amid tensions with Trump, which is to imply that there is a causal relationship between these two unrelated facts. President Trump tensions with news organizations that are out to get him, and the head of CBS News steps down. So the New York Times, which is corrupt as any Soviet news enterprise in the history of the world, head of CBS News to depart amid tensions with Trump. In unrelated news, just amazing stuff. But let me get to this because the lies are so, and that's the lie of the moment by the New York Times, that somehow there is a causal relationship, connective tissue between the woman who's the head of CBS News stepping down and tensions with Trump. That's what's going on. That's not what's going on, but that's what the headline implies, and that's all they care about, making the false implication and blaming Trump for the head of CBS News stepping down. But he'll take credit for it and laugh and walk away. Now, with that said, let me go because there's this kind of an interesting story. It's not a fun story because 2 people died and 19 more people were injured when a Mexican Navy ship, that is not a slur. Democrats think if you call anything Mexican that it's an insult or a slur. It's a naval ship and a vintage masted sailing ship belonging to the Coast Guard, the Navy of Mexico, of the country of Mexico. And it's obviously a terrible tragedy because people died and more people were injured in this incident when the ship crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. And the ship looks like a beautiful ship, and the damage was severe. And again, 2 people dead, 19 injured, a tragic incident. The fake New York Times, after a Mexican Navy ship crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, new details emerge. What went wrong? Well, I won't look to the New York Times to answer that question for sure. Mexican Navy sailors prepared high-flying farewell display before fatal Brooklyn Bridge crash. Now, we had this incident with a foreign ship, not a Navy ship, but a foreign container ship crashing into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. You remember the ship was called the Dolly, the D-A-L-I, like Salvador, not like Dolly Parton, D-O-L-L-Y, right? But Mexican Navy ship, they had the most gigantic Mexican flag you've ever seen, bigger than any Mexican flag you've ever seen on any pickup truck anywhere. It was big. It was a big flag. A group of Mexican sailors harnessed themselves to the towering masts of their ship docked beneath the Manhattan skyline Saturday night, preparing to proudly stand in unison on their vessel beams as they sailed out of New York Harbor. And a really cool moment for them, to be sure. Really an amazing ship, a beautiful ship, an unbelievable moment. It's a traditional performance put on by the crew of the 43-year-old Mexican Navy ship whenever they enter or leave a port. But those sailors that likely would have avoided scaling the ship roughly 147-foot tall masts if they knew what would happen next. NYPD officials said they believe that the ship lost power as it departed. Isn't that what happened to the Dolly in Baltimore before it crashed into the Key Bridge and collapsed the Key Bridge? And how many died there? 6, I think, people on the bridge, if I remember correctly, died there. But they say, and this is the Gothamist out of New York, where they probably know a few people, NYPD officials said they believe that the ship lost power as it departed, and strong tides and winds sent the ship drifting up the East River. Around 8:20 p.m., the ship struck the Brooklyn Bridge, which has clearance of about 127 feet above the water. And again, they said the mast, 147 feet. That means it's 20 feet higher. The masts are going to be 20 feet higher than the Brooklyn Bridge there. The top parts of the ship mast snapped, and video showed this, of the scene showed several sailors dangling perilously from ropes as the vessel careened toward the Brooklyn Bridge Park. And it's ugly. Mexican Navy officials reported 2 people died from the crash. Oh, and now an update, 22 were injured, 11 of those critically injured. Officials said the ship carried a crew of 277 sailors. Now, Chuck Schumer is a radical Soviet-style, anti-American communist senator from New York, and just amazing stuff. Now, one of the victims who died was identified as a cadet, boy, it's a terrible thing. Cadet, young sailors in the Mexican Navy and this incredible ship, and it's an honor to be on it. You're in New York, and you're preparing to leave New York Harbor, and you're going to remember this your whole life. And they crash, and people are killed, and people are critically injured, and it's a terrible thing. Now, Chuck Schumer, who lies about everything, when he's sitting there silent, he's thinking lies. When he's sleeping at night, his dreams are lies. And he, Chuck Schumer, Democrat senator, New York, he knows who to blame. Now, I'll give you one guess. Who Chuck Schumer blames for the Mexican Navy ship hitting the Brooklyn Bridge. Anybody? Raise your hand in the back. Yeah, you're right. It's so easy to guess. Here's Chuck Schumer today telling us who's to blame for the Mexican Navy ship hitting the Brooklyn Bridge in New York.
We know that the Trump administration has been meddling in U.S. Coast Guard operations, from staffing to command and comms. And I have the general sense of a Doge dysfunction in parts of the Coast Guard. To put it mildly, after being fully briefed on last night's Brooklyn Bridge accident, one thing is very clear. There are many more questions than answers. We know that there has been meddling by the Trump administration into the Coast Guard staffing, and now we need to know how this meddling might have impacted the events of last night.
Yes. Chuck Schumer knows that it's Trump's fault because Trump has been meddling, I'm making quotation marks with my fingers, in the U.S. Coast Guard, not the Mexican Coast Guard staffing, but U.S. Coast Guard staffing. And somehow Trump and Doge, Elon Musk, who Democrats want to assassinate, and this man is a senator. He's the highest-ranking Democrat in the United States of America. And he's blaming Trump, saying that Trump meddled in U.S. Coast Guard staffing, which is doubtless a ridiculous claim all by itself, and that draws a direct line to a Mexican naval ship crashing into the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. Aren't they amazing? Our Democrat Party. And the sailors are killed, sailors are critically injured, and it's Trump's fault. Wow. That is, what was the NBC story about people with mental issues? Chuck Schumer should be impeached for that. He should be removed from office. Maybe he should be arrested. He should be grabbed at an airport when he goes to, do you think he flies private? I assume he usually flies private. Don't you know who he is? Aren't they amazing? Mm-mm-mm. Man, oh man, oh man. I am telling you. Okay, our Democrat Party. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Mike calling from Queens, New York. Mike, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, good morning, Chris. Thanks for taking the call.
Hey, Mike.
I just wanted to know if you found it a little bit ironic that these Mexicans and all can scale a border wall, tunnel underneath it, but can't navigate their way under a bridge.
Let's see. They can tunnel underneath. They can scale walls, but you can't take a ship under a bridge when you got to know how tall the bridge is and how high your masts are. I guess it is a little ironic. But, Mike, now thanks to your senator, maybe you didn't vote for him.
My senator.
Yeah, maybe you didn't vote for him, but Chuck Schumer, he's identified the problem, and it's Trump's fault and Doge and Elon Musk that a Mexican naval ship hit the Brooklyn Bridge because Chuck Schumer said that Trump has meddled in U.S. Coast Guard leadership in staffing. And that
I think the problem is Chuck Schumer and the rest of the Democrats, to be honest with you. He's been meddling in everything for the past 50 years and has done absolutely nothing.
Absolutely right. That's 100% right. And
they're not with us, Chris.
They're not on our side. I've been saying it for years, Michael, and it's true.
Absolutely not.
They are not on our side. And you're in Queens, so you don't have the Brooklyn Bridge out your window. But boy, that's a big deal. That is, you crash into the Brooklyn Bridge, and Chuck Schumer. Well, it's clearly Trump's fault. These people. They're the party of the first American Civil War, and they really need to dial down their BS, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, a guy that doesn't know how to grill a hamburger, I wouldn't listen to for anything else either.
That's a good call on that one. Yeah. The video of Chuck Schumer trying to barbecue a burger was so embarrassing. He was like a space alien just landed from another galaxy. Just amazing. Well, these guys.
Man, what are you going to do, Chris? We're stuck with them because we have nitwits here that'll keep voting for them.
They will. Yeah, they will. And I mean, I know she's not your House member either, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's going to be there until the end of time. In fact, she might go for Chuck Schumer's seat. And then the Democrats would put her in the Senate, like California put Adam Schiff in the Senate out of the House of Representatives, where he proved to be the biggest liar in the history of the Congress. And they say, in California, we got to promote him. Let's make him a senator. Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely, Chris. I mean, liberalism is a mental disorder.
I think maybe the Democrat Party should be disbanded, should be banned in the United States.
Absolutely.
How many, that
they're going to do it. Hopefully they do it to themselves.
Yeah, they appear to be self-destructing, but they've destroyed public education. And I don't know if you were listening earlier, Mike, when I had the lunatic at the graduation ceremony at George Washington University, and the whole crowd going wild when they're, like, death to Israel, death to the Jews, disband they got to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel because Israel's the bad guy, not Hamas. The Democrat Party has done that to generations of Americans, and they live among us. They're a danger to civilization. Thank you, Mike. Good luck there in New York. Keep your eyes peeled. Things are a little out of control. If you've had enough of big wireless, you know who they are, the big wireless companies and their runaround, it is time to switch to consumer cellular. I got the coolest, newest, bestest phone with the best camera, and happened no time at all, just like that. You go to Consumer Cellular, you're going to get the same fast, reliable, nationwide coverage that you get from big wireless, but without the big wireless prices and without the megacorp shenanigans they're so famous for. They force you into an unlimited plan that you probably don't need and you got to pay more for. Consumer Cellular isn't one of these prepaid options. You pick a plan and you know exactly what your bill is going to be every month. It's incredibly easy to switch, too. All you have to do You just call and you speak to an actual human being based right here in the United States. Imagine that. And they make switching your plan fast and easy. Right now, you can get your second month free because we're friends and we hang out together. You get your second month free with the promo code CHRIS, CHRIS, just my first name. Taxes and third-party fees will apply, so check out consumercellular.com/Chris, or you can give them a call on the phone at 800-760-0702. Real person in America. Isn't that great? All right, we've got, I haven't even gotten to the Democrats' latest suicide attack. The latest Democrat to blow himself up and self-immolate because he despises all of humanity. Definitely a Democrat. I've got that coming up.
We know that the Trump administration has been meddling in U.S. Coast Guard operations.
And it would have been mine if it hadn't been for those meddling kids.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. We're just talking about Chuck Schumer lying like a psychopath. He should be wearing a uniform. Saying President Trump is responsible for the Mexican Navy ship crashing into the Brooklyn Bridge because Schumer says that he meddled in staffing for the U.S. Coast Guard, and that led directly to a Mexican Navy ship hitting the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. I think Chuck Schumer was out there waving the ship into the bridge late last night, night before last. Isn't it amazing? Now, the Coast Guard, the United States Coast Guard, rejects Senator Chuck Schumer's claim that Doge contributed to fatal Brooklyn Bridge crash. But Chuck Schumer then got out and throwing babies off of rooftops. Oh, speaking of which, did you see these crazy things around? You see the toddler that fell out of a 15-story apartment in Silver Spring, Maryland? A baby, little 2-year-old. And do you see this? And landed in a hedge of bushes with mulch at the bottom, and the baby's alive and bruised, but fine. A toddler, 15 stories from an apartment building just outside of Washington, D.C., and the baby is alive and well. And when I was searching for that, I found another one in Vietnam. Did you see this? A 2-year-old toddler, and there's video of this one, fell off of a 12-story building, and a delivery man ran over and caught the baby and saved its life. It's a great world. Now, Joe Biden, not a smart man, not an intelligent man, not a serious man. But we have teams of people like doctors that tend to the president of the United States, and Joe Biden has had a doctor within arm's length for a very long time as vice president of the United States for 8 years. He was a senator before that, and he's not been living under a bridge all these years. And for many years, he's had a Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who turns out is a disgrace to the Irish people. Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Joe Biden's doctor, he traveled with Joe Biden forever, would stay in the hotel room next door to the Bidens when traveling as president of the United States. And there was a story last year, 2024, in The Independent. Meet the White House doctor who greets Joe Biden every morning and who Trump wants to investigate. That's left-wing radical extremist media. They're setting up death camps now. President Joe Biden's historic decision to halt his re-election campaign has not only injected the White House race with an all bets are off invigoration, but also sparked Republican calls for probes into his medical team. Now, this is again from, it's Tuesday, the 23rd of July, 2024. And They got a picture of the doctor who doesn't look very impressive walking with Joe Biden at the White House. And America's 46th president marked the decision with a simple, solemn letter. And they go on and on. But then they do Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and he's a jovial 58-year-old military physician who's been treating the Biden family for years. And unlike seeing a patient for a yearly physical, Connor spends nearly every day in very close proximity to Biden, staying in the hotel room next to him when they travel and greeting him each morning. Now, this guy needs to go to a penitentiary, I think. He should be investigated. The Republicans were right again. His office is right across from the elevator from which Biden emerges every day, and the president must pass this doctor's office in the White House every time he goes to and from the Oval, the Oval Office, the president's office. The doctor told military medical podcast War Docs earlier this year. Yeah, now this guy has got to be called on the carpet because he's not the good guy here. And let me say this also, because now we're learning about this lie, this big lie, a huge lie. By the way, President Trump's supposed to get on the horn today with Vlad the Impaler Putin to talk about ending the war against Ukraine. And President Trump, Joe Biden never did that. He just, hey, another $60 billion for the military-industrial complex, and then I'll walk by my clueless doctor's office. Here's another guy like that girl at the George Washington University graduation should never get a job in her life. And this doctor should, I got to tell you, Dr. Kevin O'Connor isn't, and he shouldn't be thought of as a medical doctor. But we've been talking about the President Joe Biden's, his mental acuity for years as well, right? And now we've got more reason to be concerned about the big lie that is the Democrat Party and the American media, both of whom should never be trusted by anyone with anything ever. But over the weekend, something happened where we had the release of the Robert Hur special counsel interview that Robert Hur did with Joe Biden. And you may recall that he came out and said that he thought that Joe Biden should not be charged with any crimes for destroying and his mishandling of classified documents stored all over the place by his Corvette in the garage and over a steakhouse on Capitol Hill in Washington and leaving classified documents all over. And you may remember that Robert Hur had a line that was widely mocked, but not by the Democrats of the New York Times, that he's just an old man who any jury would find to be sympathetic and sad. So they said that no jury, Hur said no jury would convict, special counsel Robert Hur said no jury would convict Joe Biden because he's a poor, doddering old man. Now, a left-wing outfit in town called Axios got a hold of audio tapes. Remember, they refused to release the audio tapes. And it turns out, and I noted, I think it's in our story sheet today, that it was the transcript. They released the transcript of the Hur interview with Joe Biden, but not the audio or the videotapes. And I believe it's on video. We still haven't seen that. But I went and I looked it up, and Just the News, the wonderful John Solomon organization, Just the News, they had the story June 2nd of 2024, almost a year ago now, saying transcript tampering, ? DOJ says written record of Biden interview with prosecutors omitted words. Wait a minute. You mean the lying, corrupt criminals in the Department of Justice omitted words? They changed the transcript to make Biden look better? Even though the Justice Department stated that the transcript was altered, it still contains some repeat and filter and filler words. So they added words, they deleted words from the transcript that they released of the Hur interview with Joe Biden. They didn't release the video, they didn't release the audio, and they did release a transcript that we then later learned had been altered by the Justice Department, which is corrupt under any Democrat who should all probably be in a gulag in El Salvador. Isn't that amazing? And then we learned, because the people at Axios got a hold of some of the audio from the interview. Axios releases audio showing Biden struggling with memory in interview with Robert Hur. Right? Newly released audio from Axios reveals that former President Joe Biden struggled with his memory during an interview with then special counsel Robert Hur. The audio recording reveals that Biden had difficulty remembering when his late son, Beau Biden, died, when now President Donald Trump was elected president during his first term in office, and other things, Axios reported. So, and this is why they kept and again, these audio tapes, and there are videotapes, I believe, also, that have still not been released. These belong to us, the American taxpayer. These people work for us. Robert Hur works for us. Joe Biden worked for us when the interview was done. And the Department of Justice, the corrupt Department of Justice under Joe Biden, and their corrupt attorney general, their awful, terrible, corrupt attorney general, and corrupt FBI senior officials, they lied to the American people. They deceived the American people. They tricked the American people. And they did so on behalf of the Democrat Party. So that's how you know that they're Democrats. They wanted Joe Biden elected. They wanted Trump to lose. And the American people disagreed. But these people are criminals. These people are literal criminals. And they should be treated as criminals. They should be viewed as criminals for the rest of their lives because they are criminals. Now, let's go to soundbite number 1. Joe Biden talking to Robert Hur. And this is the audio tape, and I believe videotape as well, that they've been withholding from the American people. The transcript released by the Justice Department had been altered to make Joe Biden look less pathetic. And here's Robert Hur talking to Joe Biden about the classified documents in boxes in his garage, behind his Corvette, in above a restaurant just off of Capitol Hill. They still call the neighborhood Capitol Hill. There's a fancy steakhouse downstairs. Joe Biden had some offices that he never went to. Is that where the Chinese had access to it, but nobody else did? And here's Joe Biden with Robert Hur on the classified documents in the boxes.
I'm sure there were. I don't know. My problem was I never knew where any of the documents or boxes were specifically coming from or who packed them. It just that I get them delivered to me. And so I'm at this stage in 2009. Am I still vice president?
Am I still vice president? At this stage in 2009, am I still vice president? You don't know what year you were vice president? And again, he's president during this interview. And he doesn't know what year he might have been vice president. And you heard a woman back there very quietly say, yes, Mr. President, you were. So he's getting help with tough questions like when you were vice president of the United States. Isn't that amazing? Man. The New York Times has a fraudulent headline, quote, "Watch me," end quote. Biden said, but hearing him in her interview is more revealing. Well, maybe you guys in the New York Times should have pushed for the videotape to be released or the audio tape to be released or maybe a transcript that wasn't altered by his corrupt allies in the Justice Department who should go to a penitentiary for tampering in the presidential election, along with John Brennan, the Communist Party voting CIA director under Barack Obama, who was one of them, and Mike Morrell, former CIA director behind the felonious 51 letter lying to us about the Hunter Biden laptop, which had Joe Biden as the big guy getting 10% from the Chinese. Never mind all that. And CNN lying about it. Audio released of Biden interview with special counsel who described him as an elderly man with a poor memory And they're still downplaying it. CNN's still downplaying it. The New York Times still downplaying it. Their business is to lie to people. It's a sad truth, but it's a truth nonetheless. Robert Hur, talking about the diamond. Number two. Robert Hur shows him photos of the file cabinets with the classified documents. Hey, remember these file cabinets that you fill with classified documents?
And so in these photos, when the file cabinet was here at Chambers Road, what kinds of things were in it?
Everything, I believe, everything from, empty files to I just had files piled up. I needed a file.
What?
To, I don't know what else was in there.
Empty files.
I don't.
What? He's looking for help.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember. What's in your file cabinets? I don't know. I don't remember. And elderly man with a poor memory. All right? There he is. And then the, hey, well, you're vice president of the United States. You were a senator. He had classified documents going back to when he was a senator. No authority to take them out of secure facilities on Capitol Hill. But he stole them and brought them and put them in file cabinets next to his car. It's a beautiful car. I'll give him that. They should give me that car. Don't you think they should give me that? That's just me. That's probably not going to happen, though. But, hey, let's say you were working on papers and writing things. What'd you do with those?
Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
What?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying.
Either been deployed or is dying.
And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. That's not a mean thing to say. I mean,
except the president. That is, Barack Obama didn't want me to run. And he can't remember it. His son died in 2015, in May of 2015 at the age of 46, and very sad. He was the good Biden, and amazing stuff. Joe Biden on the Hur tapes.
What was happening, though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2018. Was it 2015 he died?
He doesn't know.
2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was.
Yeah.
She's being prompted.
Right.
She's prompting him, rather. Isn't that amazing? Just and then this other video has emerged of Joe Biden back in 2022, and this goes to the prostate cancer issue when he was giving a speech, and he's off script and he's babbling, and he seems to say that he himself has cancer.
The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
That's why another point of pride for the state of Delaware under Joe Biden. But didn't he say that's why I have cancer? And that's 3 years ago in 2022. And maybe he knew, and this doctor, and that's so before he was running for president 5 years ago, that this, I got to tell you, our Democrat Party. You know, when a mother with an unplanned pregnancy is deciding what to do about her future and the future of her unborn child, it can be overwhelming, of course, and she wants to make the right choice. But society and a lot of people around her are telling her that that baby is not actually a human life. Now, preborn is a ministry, and preborn's entire ministry is dedicated to loving these women, these mothers, and to empower them to make the choice of life. And it's an eternal moment for the women and for their children. Now, Briella was ready to take the abortion pill and end her pregnancy, but the pill never came. She decided again instead to go to a preborn clinic. And after receiving a free ultrasound, her eternal moment happened. Not only did her unborn baby wave at her from the womb and show a heartbeat from the womb, but she realized that, there was a baby boy, the baby boy that she had prayed for. So when you support preborn, the preborn clinics, you're supporting life-affirming clinics nationwide. Give free ultrasounds to pregnant women to help empower the mother to choose life. Your tax-deductible donation of $28 every month is reaching eternity. It goes on and on. To get involved, simply dial pound 250, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. That's dialing pound 250. The keyword is baby. Or you can go online to Al Gore's Amazing Internet and visit preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/PLANTE. Yes, sir. Yeah, so all this, and isn't this amazing? And then they, the Herd tapes come out, and the White House, the Biden people come out and say, oh, by the way, did we mention that we've all got to feel bad for Joe Biden now because he's got advanced stage prostate cancer, which we're now learning he may have had for 10 years, according to Ezekiel Emanuel at least.
That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
Well, I've nearly run out the clock on myself once again, and I really wanted to get to the latest Democrat Party suicide bomber who killed himself at a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California, 25-year-old, now dead because he blew himself up in a car bomb, improvised explosive device, Guy Edward Bartkus, who has not spoken to his father in more than 10 years, which makes it, as a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old. But the police described him as a nihilist. Now, a nihilist is a typical Democrat. Nihilism is a viewpoint that traditional values and beliefs are unfounded and that human existence is senseless and useless. So obviously a Democrat. He blew himself up. He's the only one that died, fortunately.